Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Katie from Eclectic by Katie, and today we are going to be doing this gorgeous Halloween granny square for not only a pumpkin, but I also have this really cute spider web. So if you want to make a Halloween blanket or a bag or a nice shawl or something that you want to make out of granny squares and you want to make it Halloween themed, these are absolutely perfect. Now these are actually 6-inch granny squares, but of course I do show you how you can make them bigger, or you can of course make them a little bit smaller just by stopping at any point in the pattern. Okay, so this is beginner friendly. It's quite simple. If you are a little bit unsure on some of the stitches, I do slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet and double crochet, and the rest is pretty basic, pretty simple. I do try and go as slow as I can with the pattern. Of course, if you do need to read along or crochet along with a written pattern, the written pattern will be available on Etsy. If you go to www.eclecticbykatieshop.etsy.com, the link is also in the description of this video, so you can pop over to the shop and download the pattern. It is quite inexpensive, so it's quite easy to follow along. It is a beginner pattern. Go as slow or as fast as you wish. Of course, if you're an intermediate crocheter, this will be pretty simple for you. Okay, so I hope you enjoy the pattern, and here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly run through the materials and equipment that we're going to use. So I'm using this Aran yarn, which is a worsted weight yarn in black and in the orange. So you'll need two colours. Of course, my pumpkin is going to be in orange and black is going to be my background colour. So I've used an Aran yarn, and this is Stylecraft Special, but of course you can use any sort of worsted weight or 4-weight yarn, and I'm using a 5mm hook. I'll need some scissors just for when I'm finishing off at the end, and also a tapestry needle just to weave in our ends. Okay, so I'm just going to jump straight into the pattern. I'm just going to put my black yarn to one side for now, and we're going to start with our orange because we're going to work from the middle of our granny square out to do the background at the end. Okay, so we are going to start this with a magic ring, and I don't know if you followed any of my previous patterns where I work with a magic ring, but it's very simple. So you will just start with your tail like this, in between your thumb and your third finger, and your first and second finger, or your forefinger and second finger, holding it like so. You just need to pull it through to create a loop like so. Very simple. Put your hook in and pick up that yarn there. And then we are just going to do a chain 1 just to close that magic ring. And then we are going to work our magic ring over the top of these two tails here. Okay, so that is our magic ring, and we are going to need to do chain 2 to start. So we're just going to do another chain there, and that doesn't count as a stitch. Now we are going to be working into our magic ring. We are going to be doing 12 double crochets. So just work 12 normal double crochets into that magic ring, and just take your time. If you are a beginner, of course, you just need to pause the video if you're not going quite as fast as me, or if you're a little bit more advanced and you want this to go a little bit quicker, of course you can forward the video on a little bit. Okay, so once you've done your 12 double crochets, I shall see you at the end of this round. So once you have your 12 double crochets, it should look like this. And then what we need to do is just do a slip stitch into our first stitch there, just to close the round. Okay, and it should look like that. You can pull your magic ring a little bit tighter, but of course we will tighten that fully once we come to close it properly at the end and weave in our tails. So we are going to start on round 2, and this time we are going to chain 2 to start, and then we are going to be working 12 increases. So we are going to work 1 increase into each of these stitches. So we are going to start with this stitch here. So our chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, and we are going to pop 2 double crochets into this stitch here and another one. So that is our first increase. So you need to do that another 11 times all the way around, and you should have a total of 24 stitches once you finish this round. So that is our 24 double crochets around, and we just need to close this round with a slip stitch into our first stitch again. So this is what your work should look like. So this time we are going to start our round with a chain 1, and then we are going to be doing a slip stitch into the first stitch. So the same stitch that you've just done your chain 1. So we need to do a slip stitch into there. Then into the next stitch we are going to do a slip stitch and a half double crochet into the same stitch. So do a half double crochet there. Now into the next stitch we are going to do a double crochet, and then in the next stitch we are going to do an increase. So we are going to put 2 double crochets into this stitch, and then we are going to do a double crochet, and then 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So we are doing an increase into this one, then a double crochet, and then another increase, then a double crochet, and another increase. So you should have 4 increases in total on this one side. So let's just double check we have our 4 increases. So if you pull your stitches apart a little bit, you will see which ones have an increase. So we have an increase here, so that's 1, and then increase here is 2, and that's a single, and there's 3, and the last one is 4. Okay. Now for the next part, we are going to reduce it back down again. So we are going to do a double crochet into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch we are going to do a half double crochet and a slip stitch into the same stitch, and then in the next stitch we're doing a slip stitch. So we are copying the same as what we did at the very beginning, but just in reverse. So we are going to work on this next side. So we are going to do a slip stitch and a half double crochet into the next. So those 2 together, slip stitch and half double crochet in the same stitch. And then we are going to do a double crochet, and then we are doing 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So we're doing our increase into this one, and that's our first increase, and then a double crochet, and then our second increase, second increase there, then double crochet, and then third increase, 1 and 2, and then double crochet, and then do our 4th increase. So it's the same as the other side. we'll finish this round off with a double crochet to start. Then we'll do our half double crochet and slip stitch into the same stitch. And then we are going to finish with a slip stitch into our first stitch there. So we are going to see that's our chain one that we started with, and this is our first stitch. So we're just going to do a slip stitch into there. And that is the end of round 3. Now I'm just going to quickly finish off my work here because that is our first colour done. So that is your pumpkin part done. And I'm just going to show you how I finish off my work. And we are just going to, so this is our last stitch here. We're going to skip this stitch here and then go into this one. And because we've skipped a stitch, we need to create a stitch with this here. So we're just going to create this new V with our yarn and then go into the back of our last stitch, and you will see that finishes it off lovely. And you don't have a reduction in stitches here either, so when we come to do the rest, that is the correct amount of stitches that you will need. So we just skip a stitch to start and then we create a stitch with our yarn afterwards. So I'm just going to feed this through in the back. Okay, so we are going to start adding our background now. So we are going to just pick up where we were and just work from, that was our last stitch, and we are going to be working from the 5th stitch along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is my 5th stitch here. And I'm going to be working in the back loop only. So pop your hook through and pull your tail through that back loop, and then we are going to start with a chain 3. Now that chain 3 is going to act as your first double crochet stitch for this round, and we are going to create the corner. So we are going to put another double crochet into this very same stitch, and then we are going to do a chain 2 and then pop 2 double crochets into the next stitch. Make sure that you are just working in the back loops only. So that's 2 double crochets into there. So that is going to be our corner. Now we are going to do a half double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So half double crochet and then half double crochet. Make sure you're working in the back loops. And then we are going to do a single crochet for the next 3 stitches. That is along this side. So that's 1, 2 and 3. And then we are going to copy what we did over this side. So we are going to do a half double crochet for the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And then 2 double crochets into the next. There's 1 and 2, and then chain 2 for your corner, and then 2 double crochets into the next. Like so. Now we are going to repeat the same pattern again. So we are going to do a half double crochet, and then a half double crochet, double crochet for the next 3 stitches to bring this up to the same level as the other stitches. There's 1, 2 and 3, and then we are going to do the same pattern on the other side. So we're going to do a half double crochet for the next 2 stitches, and then we want 2 double crochets, and then a chain 2 for your corner, and then 2 double crochets into the next one. Then you want a half double crochet into the next 2, and of course we want to do single crochets as we did on the other side. So we'll do a single crochet for the next 3 stitches. 1, 2 and 3, and then we're going around this corner now, so we're going to do 2 half double crochets, then 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets into the next, 2 double crochets into here, and then you want 2 half double crochets, so 1 in there and 1 into the next, like so. And then you want to double crochet for the next 3 stitches because we've got a dip like on the other side. So double crochet for the next 3 stitches. 1, 2 and 3. And then we need to do a half double crochet into the last 2 stitches. So you should have 2 stitches left there. So just half double crochet into each of those. And then you can do a slip stitch into the top of your chain 3. Make sure if you are using black yarn like me that you charge a yarn tax, because black yarn is a bit of a pain to see everything. But that is your first round of your background, and that's what it should look like once you have got to this point. Okay, so for the second round of the background, we are going to do a chain 2, and then we are going to double crochet into the same stitch, and then pop in another double crochet into the next stitch. Sorry, it's hard to see with black yarn. So into our corner, we are going to be working 2 double crochets and a chain 2, 2 double crochets. Chain 2, 2 double crochets, so all in the same stitch, or all in your chain space for your corner. And that will start giving you your square edge on that corner. And then we need to double crochet for 11 stitches. Make sure you get all of those stitches along. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, and then you will have your corner, so you'll have your chain space, so you need to work 2 double crochets chain 2, and then 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And then you just need to repeat that for each of your other sides. So continue with your 11 double crochets along, and then your 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. Same on this side, so your 11 double crochets, and then continue until you get to the other end, and you should have 9 double crochets to finish because you started with 2 double crochets at the very beginning. So I shall see you once you get to the other end of your round here. Okay, so that is my 9 double crochets along, and that should get you to here, and then you are able to then slip stitch into your first stitch to close that round, and that's what your work should now look like. And now we are going to do our final round for the background, and it is very similar to the last. So we are going to do a chain 2, and we are going to double crochet into the same stitch, and then we are going to double crochet for a further 3 stitches. 1, 2 and 3. So that's 4 stitches in total before you then do your corner. So we need to do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into your corner, as you have done in the previous round. And then you will just continue with your double crochets along the sides. So you will have 15 double crochets in this round, and then you do your 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then 15 double crochets. And of course in the last round you will only have 11 this time because you've started with your 4 double crochets, and you will continue this for as long as big as you want your granny square to be, really. So if you want more rounds, you can just increase it. So just continue with your double crochet stitches on each end, and of course it will increase by 4 on every round. Okay, so if you just continue along there and do your 15 double crochets for this one. If you want your granny square to be a bit bigger, you can of course go for 19 stitches in the next round. Okay, so I shall see you once you have finished this one. So that is my 11 stitches there. So I'm just going to finish off the round, and I've just done a slip stitch into the first stitch, and then I'm just going to pull my yarn through, and I'm going to finish off the same way as I did with the orange. Now this one for me measures about 15 centimeters, which is about 6 inches. Now for the spider's web, we are going to start pretty much the same as we did with the pumpkin, but of course we are going to start with some white. And I mean, you can do your spider's web any colour you like. You can do it black if you want. So we're going to start with the magic ring, exactly the same. So just create your loop, pop your hook in, bring it through, and then do a chain 1, and that is your magic ring. Okay, so into your magic ring you need to work 12 single crochets, and I'm going to see you once you've got all 12 of your single crochets done. Okay, so that is our 12 single crochets, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a slip stitch into our first stitch just to close the round, like so. And now to start this round we are going to start with a chain 4. Now this chain 4 acts as our first double crochet plus our chain 1. So done slip stitch 1, 2, 3, 4. So that acts as a double crochet chain 1. because what we are going to be doing in each of these other ones is a double crochet, chain 1. So continue that around, double crochet and chain 1, and that's all you need to do in each of these stitches, and you should end up with 12 double crochets at the end of this round. So that is our 12 stitches, and then what we need to do to close this round is we need to do a slip stitch into the 3rd chain. So we need to go 1, 2, 3rd chain. So you've got 1 chain left here, because that you're basically working into the top of a double crochet, which you created with a chain at the beginning. Okay, so that is the end of our 2nd round. So for round 3, we are going to do a chain 6, 4, 5 and 6, and that acts as a double crochet, chain 3. And then what we need to do is do double crochet, chain 3 for each of our stitches, but we are only going to be working in the top of each of our double crochets. Okay, so we are going to do double crochet into here and then chain 3, and then double crochet into the top of our double crochet and then chain 3, and continue that same pattern all the way around until you have your 12 double crochets in total, because of course we have our double crochet to start here that we created with our chain 6, and then we will do our slip stitch into the 3rd chain of this one. Okay, so I shall see you at the end of this round. Okay, so once you've done your final double crochet and your chain 3, you will then be doing a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of your initial chain here for your chain 6. So you need to go 1, 2, 3 into here and then do a slip stitch to close that round, and that is what your work should look like at the end of round 3. Now for round 4, it's going to be very similar. Instead of doing a chain 6, we are doing a chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and yes, as you guessed it, that is a double crochet, chain 4. So in each of these double crochets, just working in our double crochets only, we are going to be doing double crochet and chain 4, and do that for each of your stitches around. Until you get to the other end, and it should start to look like that. So once you get to your final chain 4, you just need to do a slip stitch into the 3rd stitch, sorry, the 3rd link on your chain, and that will close that round. So this is what yours should look like now. Now for this round, we are going to be doing a chain 8. So basically the same as what we did on the last round, but instead of doing double crochet chain 4, we're doing double crochet chain 5. So double crochet in your double crochet, chain 5, 3, 4 and 5, double crochet, and it really is that simple. 2, 3, 4, 5 and double crochet, and just continue that all the way around, and this is the last increase we are going to finish off our granny square in a moment. Okay, so we don't need to increase our web anymore, and we're now going to square it off just so then you can use it as a granny square. So I'm just going to show you how you would do that. So we're going to start with the chain 1, okay, and then we are going to be working in the top of this this chain 3 here that we've got. So we'll work into the same stitch, and in this stitch we're going to do a single crochet and then a chain 2 and then another single crochet, and that is going to be your first corner. Okay, and then we are going to be working into our chain space now. So we are going to work 5 single crochets into our chain space. That's 4 and 5, and then we need to do a single crochet into the top of the double crochet, and then we need to do 5 single crochets into this chain space, 4 and 5, and then single crochet into the top of this double crochet, and then we'll do another 5 into the next chain space, 4 and 5. Now I will show you the pattern. So we have our corner piece here, which was our single crochet, chain 2 single crochet, and then we've got 5 single crochets, and then the same on all 3, so 5 single crochets in each of our chain spaces with a single crochet in between them. And then we are going to add our next corner here, so you will have 3 in between each. You've got 4 corners, you've got 12 holes, 12 chain spaces, so you will have a total of 3 on each side. So when we are doing our corner, we need to do a single crochet and then chain 2 and then single crochet, and then continue with your 5 single crochets, 3, 4 and 5, and then a single crochet into your double crochet, and then 5 single crochets again, and then a single crochet in there, and then we need one more lot of 5 single crochets into this end, and then you will do your corner. So single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet. Okay, and then just continue around, and that will start to square off your work, and you will be able to use this then as a granny square. So I shall see you once you get back round to this other corner. Okay, so if you wish to finish at this point, you certainly can do, because this is about a 5-inch granny square if you want to stop here. If you do want it the same size as the pumpkin, I would suggest doing one more round of just with double crochets this time, and we can do that with a chain 3 here, and then we need to do a double crochet into the end single crochet that we've got here. It's a little bit fiddly just because it's the one in the corner. and then you need to work a double crochet into your corner chain space, and then chain 2 and then double crochet. And then you will double crochet all the way along for 19 stitches. And then again for your corner space, you will do a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. So if you just continue along with that pattern, and I shall see you once you get around to this part here. Okay, so that is my round nearly finished. So you should have 18 double crochets here, because your chain 3 at the start, that doesn't count as a stitch. So we are going to do a slip stitch into our first stitch and pull that through. Now you can continue on again if you want to make this granny square bigger, you certainly can do, but this should be the same size as your pumpkin. If I just grab the pumpkin and just compare, I mean I haven't finished it off yet, but yeah, the size should be pretty much the same. And so we're just going to finish this off, and we're going to do it exactly the same as we did with the pumpkin. Also, you're going to need to pull your magic ring nice and tight, and I like to always knot my magic rings as well because I don't want those coming apart. Of course, you can block your work because it can go a little bit wavy. But of course, if you're going to be sewing them together, especially if you're putting a spider web next to a pumpkin, it will hold it nice and square. So you shouldn't have a problem there. Okay, so that is both of the granny squares done. I hope you enjoyed this pattern. It's pretty simple, pretty basic. If you want to make them bigger, of course, or change the colour, you can make the outside colour different for each of your granny squares, and the background on the pumpkin, of course, you can make it different. You can add a leaf or some curly tails or a stalk on there if you want to make it a little bit more three-dimensional, I guess. It just depends what you're going to be using it for. These would make fantastic granny squares for bags or blankets or lots of large projects. Let your imagination go crazy. But that is the end of the pattern. If you have any questions, please drop me a message below. I'm more than happy to help you along, especially if you're a beginner. I'm happy to go through the pattern with you. Or, of course, you have the written pattern on Etsy that you can download. It's pretty inexpensive. I like to make my granny square patterns quite inexpensive on Etsy. So pop over and have a look. Okay, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.